Okay, so today we're going to be working on how to show a lot of interest to a girl without coming off needy or desperate or lame or beta, whatever kind of description you want, right? And this is a sort of a follow-up video to my previous video, which I'll put in the description below. Probably should go watch it to have a primer. But that video was about how if you want to get more interest from women, you're going to really benefit from showing them a lot of interest, because I explained in more detail, but the basics is that a girl can like you, let's say here, right? But if you only come in like this, she might at first be showing these signs, but for whatever reason, you know, maybe because you don't want to appear needy or you want to try and play it cool, you're Mr. Suave, cool guy, you're going to keep it here and then she's going to come down here, right? Now, in your experience, when a girl likes you more than you like her, generally that creates attraction, and that is true. But it is more powerful to just take the level of interest here, right? So let's say Mr. Suave guy comes in and she actually really likes him, right? So she's like a here, but he starts acting this. So she's eventually going to balance out, right? If she knows how to play the game and, you know, how to create that balance of interest. The only time it'll really stay here the whole time is if you are definitely hotter than her, okay? Like, let's say you're an 8 and she's like a 7 or something, right? But if she comes down to balance you, then the seduction is basically you like taking a step further because you're the man, right? So you're the pursuer. I don't care, like very niche circumstances when you're like famous or something, our girl's going to be doing all the work, right? For the most part, you're the one pursuing things. So you're going to have to escalate the seduction. That's how the process works, right? On the other hand, you'll have a guy like me who's very high interest a lot of times. I'll come in really hot. So let's say she feels this about me, right? She's like, oh, this guy's cute. He's talking to me. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to come in like this, okay? Now, here's what will happen. If she's really just here about me and I come in really hot, I'm going to notice this and adjust it. But now this is our starting point, right? She's probably not going to lose interest in me just because I come in really hot, because it's just the beginning of the seduction. Unless I come in like here, right? But if I come in here, this is not going to lose me any attraction so long as I do this in a skillful, cool way, which is going to be the point of this video, right? But let's say I do. She's going to meet me here, and she might even come up to meet me, right? Or she'll like start here, but she might come up here to meet me. But if not, I just go down here. But we're here now. Like, there's a certain level of energy that we are exchanging and a level of interest that she's more open to showing me because she feels like it's safe, right? A lot of the game of seduction, we feel like, oh, it's stupid games. We should just come in and tell people how we feel. That's not the full story, right? But it is half the story. So you come in and you express how you feel about that person. And if they feel somewhat in the same area and they see, oh, it's safe for me to like express my interest, kind of like the first person to say I love you makes the other person, you know, feel comfortable saying it back, even if they already felt it, right? So, oh, wow, he's actually expressing himself. I can express myself. I feel comfortable around him. And also, I feel confident that he does like me, so I can just say what I want to say because I know he likes me, right? Whereas before anyone shows their cards, the other person's kind of guessing, right? But because you're the man, you push the envelope. So I'm going to start it out real hot so that we are at a high level of interest. And then that makes the seduction actually move faster and easier. Okay. There's a lot of nuance there, but that's the basic gist of it. Now, how do you come in skillful, right? So there's two aspects here. You want to come in high interest, and it's not just in the beginning, right? That was just the example. It could be while you're talking to each other. Like, you know, let's say you're having coffee and you're getting to know each other, and normally you would do the like, oh, the small talk and then this. Well, you're going to do that, right? But now you're going to do it at a higher level. So tell me about yourself. You know, you said that you were a nurse. How long have you been doing that? Like, you're showing interest. Like, it's clear in my body language and in my voice and in my facial expressions. Like, hey, I really want to get to know you. You know, what's your name? You know, you're really cute. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Cool. How long have you been doing that? Oh, yeah. You can tell when someone is interested or not, right? It's very clear. Whereas someone who's like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And they're kind of pulled back a bit. There is a way to pull that off, but I'm trying to tell you to go a little bit more on the spectrum of showing more emotion, right? How do we do that, but in a cool way, right? You're basically just asking, how do you have charisma? Okay? But there are a lot of different ways to pull it off. So what are the ways that one expresses interest in a high value way? So there's a few things here, okay? First, it's recognizing windows, okay? Is there an openness to this? This does require a degree of you to be able to observe people's feelings. So let's say we are in this scenario. Let me get my hands right. I'm looking at the video over here, but then I'm obviously just like making hands. I should just focus on my own hands and then the video will turn out the way it is, but I kind of want it to look good, right? So let's say we're in this situation and I come in really hot, right? And she's here. And then we kind of settle around here. But I'm a observant person, okay? And I can read people really well, and I can know when, you know, someone is comfortable, someone's not comfortable, someone's excited, someone's nervous, I can tell these emotions because I've learned how to read these emotions. I've become very in tune with my own emotions, and I've tested enough scenarios where I'm like, oh, that person feels this way, and then I do something to see, you know, how they react to it, right? Let's say I can tell that she's actually more in this range of openness to me, right? She's showing this, but really she's kind of open on this level. But I came in here, so this is like, she's like, all right, this is the safe place to stay. But I know she's open. I'm going to start showing more interest, right? I'm going to reach across the table and like touch her hand really quick, or I'm going to touch her, you know, her thigh really gently while I'm talking, just to see if, you know, if I take that next step into, you know, someone's personal barrier and get a little more intimate, how are they going to react to it? Or let's say you're home with her and you're making out with her. Like, am I going to try and like go for the ass, or like go for the pussy, or am I going to like cop a feel on her tits? Like, when am I going to take that next step? Right. Well, a lot of times you just have to go for it. But of course, there has to be context, especially when you're dealing with something intimate, like, you know, escalating sexuality. You definitely want to be careful. You want to wait until you're in a, you know, private place and it's pretty obvious she's liking you, right? But we're talking more about escalating the seduction before we get to the like hanging out in private in the bedroom or, you know, on the couch kind of situation. I can read their emotions and see, I think they're more open. They like me more than they're kind of playing on, because some girls will learn how to play this game of being coy and being subtle. And this is something that I went over with the client who inspired the first video. It's a client of mine he's pretty good with girls. He's a cool guy all around. He's, you know, rich, he's successful, highly ambitious and motivated, and does pretty well with girls, but he wants to do well with girls that he considers a 9 or a 10, right? And unfortunately, when he does see those women out and about, he gets very nervous. What I told him, I said, look, dude, you need to become shameless. I just need you to just go for it 100%, right? You're going to make mistakes, but I'd rather you practice just letting it all out, because that is actually the sign of a high value man, because he's not afraid to express interest. It's actually pretty simple, right? But a lot of people are stuck in this game of playing it too cool for school, and that's the kind of reactions he's getting from girls. He's going in halfway, and girls are giving him halfway responses. I'm like, well, if you want more than a halfway response, you're going to have to give more than halfway, right? But you have to take that risk and show that emotion. So let's say I can read that she's open to this, even though I can see she's kind of playing the game. Boom, I'm going to go here. I'm going to show a lot of interest. I'm going to give her another compliment while we're talking. Like, let's say she's, you know, tells me something and I go, you know what? You're really cool. I'm really enjoying my time with you. Just a pure expression of interest. That's one way to do it. Like, that's one of the techniques. You just express how you feel. I'm really enjoying my time with you. I really like you. Or just another compliment. You're really cool. You're really beautiful. I just can't keep my eyes off of you, right? Like, let's say you're on a date with her and you just keep checking her out. Be open about it. A lot of times women see what you're doing, and just you vocalizing it shows a lot of confidence. So I'm kind of going ahead of myself here, but like, just the fact that you fucking go for it is actually a demonstration of high value. Because a man who is high value and confident in in himself, going for it means he is confident he can succeed, right? Like, it's kind of a reflexive property. Like, the fact that he goes for it is a signal that he believes he can get it. Wow, this guy actually came up and talked to me. He actually believes he can get with me just by the virtue of simply going for it. Well, hey, I just might fucking believe him. Or it's like, if you're in business, it's like you ask for a lot of money. Just by the fact that the guy asked for a lot of money for his services, damn, he's got some confidence. He's got some balls to ask for that price because this is the industry standard. I wonder if he's better than the rest. It's kind of like why people buy luxury goods. A lot of times the materials themselves or even the design is just kind of mediocre, but the fact that they fucking asked for it, hey, now you're a $1 billion company, and when you sell the same shit as that other one who's only a multi-million-dollar company, but you had the balls to ask for more money, and then your brand got associated with expensive taste. So I'm kind of going ahead of myself, right? But that's one way that just going for it actually makes you high value, because in and of itself, it's a high value move. But let's go back to I can observe her, right? So that's one way that automatically your move, even if it's not the smoothest, is going to work because you just know she's more open, right? But that takes some observational skills, right? So some of you might not have that. So how do I actually make the move itself sexy, right? Well, you have to use something that you have that is skillful, right? It could be a sense of humor. So somehow the way that you are expressing yourself to her, right, and showing a lot of interest and a lot of high energy, right? Let's say you're just like really obviously into her. You're leaning in, you're smiling a lot, and you're into her. You can tell. Just like if a girl was acting like this with you, like, oh, no, oh yeah, you could tell, okay, she's into me, right? But while you're doing that, it's kind of like with one hand, you're doing this. On the other hand, you'll break the tension with some humor. Like, you're just a funny guy, right? This is not going to be a video on how to be funny. That's a totally whole different subject. The fuck? Totally whole different subject? A whole different subject, right? Because being funny is, I could literally make a course on that. And I probably should, but explaining humor kind of isn't funny. But some people just aren't naturally funny. Well, is anyone naturally funny? I don't think so. I think everyone learns it. Trial and error and observation and mimicking. Anyways, getting distracted. So if you're funny, what is going to happen is it's kind of like a sleight of hand. Like, I'm showing all this interest, and if at any point it were to, I don't know, come off too much, but then I'm also funny, it's like, hey, look over there. And they'll see this is here, and they have to like you to a certain degree. So they do have to have that openness. But just like in every part of the seduction, you never really know 100% until you take a step forward, right? You don't know a girl will kiss you back unless you go for it. You can be like 99% sure. Like, there's times where I'm like, this girl's totally going to kiss me just because I can feel the vibe, right? But you're never 100% sure, because even if she wants to, she might still not do it. Because, I don't know, she's trying to play cool for school. She's trying to play like she's a good girl, or she's trying to, get you to chase more. Who knows, right? But you never know until you go for it. But let's say you are going for showing a lot of interest, giving her a compliment, kind of putting in more energy into the section, or you actually go for it, right? You go for an escalation. You try to touch her, you try to kiss her, you try to invite her home, something. But if along the way you can be funny, that's going to help kind of soften the blow in a way, like make it seem less serious, right? So that's really useful when you're in a conversation and you're just like generally being funny, and then around that time you go in and you make a move. What I'm not saying to do is try to break any tension of like let's say you go for something and she goes, oh, like, let's say you go for a kiss and she turns her cheek and you go, oh, and you try to make a joke and you try to play it off. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying to be, Chase talks about this a lot, being a clown, right? And it's something he focused on a lot in his early articles of not being a jester, okay? That's not what I'm saying you do. What I'm saying is you're just generally being funny while you are also flirting with her is going to kind of create like a hybrid move, and it's going to make the flirtation itself feel less serious, and she's going to be more open to it. So even if you're showing a lot of interest, if you're also funny, it's going to be more effective, right? But you're not going to do humor every time, and you're not always going to be funny, right? If you're trying to be funny a lot of times, it's not going to land as well. But you can also just be charismatic with your body language and with your facial expressions and your vocal tonality, right? So, let's just, because a lot of times it's very dependent on the conversation. So I can't just spawn a random conversation out of nowhere. I could grab an audio clip of something and show an example of that. But let's just go with like, you're giving your girl a compliment. And let's say at some point she's telling you something interesting and you're like, I want to let this girl know that I like her. I kind of feel like the seduction is not really moving forward. It doesn't feel like we're reaching that next level of intimacy. And so she tells me something about herself, and I just really want to let her know she's really interesting. So she tells the story, and I go, you know what, Sarah, you're really cool. That's really awesome. The fact that you helped that person when they were in such a shitty situation, and you went out of your way to help them. Normally, people who, even if it's their job, they're not going to go out of their way to help someone. Most people just want to do jobs to get through the day, But you actually went out of your way to help them, and I really admire that. So what you see I did there is I'm crafting the compliment in a way where there's actually detail and explanation, right? It's not just a flat, you're really cool, right? Like I actually explained my thinking, but also the way I did it is cool and charismatic, right? Like I paused to gather my thoughts. I was like, most people would never do that. I'm looking out to, kind of out to the side. It's generally, it means that you're like thinking about something. Like if I'm talking to you in camera and I go, that's really cool that you did that. That like transition that I just did where you look off into, nothingness to kind of like gather your thoughts. And then you hit them with the laser beam of like, that's really cool. That's a charismatic move. I'm using my hands to express myself. Most people, you see, I'm using my head, I'm using my face, right? Your entire demeanor and your personality is being expressed as a sort of performance, and not in the deceitful sense, but just in the sense that, there's charismatic ways to do things and non-charismatic ways to do things. So there's kind of a whole show going on, right, with my fundamentals. There's a reason why I always emphasize fundamentals on this channel, is because even if you have a good game, like you say the right thing, like that was a great moment for me. She shared an intimate story from her job when she helped someone out, right? Just fictitious conversation. And this is a great time to like let her know that I, admire that about her, which is going to create a connection, right? Because she's going to feel good that she feels admired. She's going to feel good that you recognize that what she did is good, right? And she's just going to feel good around you, which is going to create, a feeling of connection. Associating good emotions with you. So you have the fundamentals. You recognize a good window in which to try and show interest, right? It's not just some random, like, you're really cool, because there's no context, right? You can give a compliment of her looks out of nowhere. Like if, you just can't stop staring at her, just be like, I'm sorry, it's so hard to pay attention because you are gorgeous, right? That would be something that's also charismatic. Because did you see my fundamentals in that? Like I just like I'm showing her how I feel. I'm not just saying it, I'm showing. Show, don't tell is a very big principle in a lot of things like writing, but also in seduction. Show, don't tell. But you are going to tell also, because that statement does matter, right? You're just, it's hard to pay attention. You are gorgeous, right? Or let's say her tits are just popping out and you just like, you keep staring at her and be like, I'm sorry, you look amazing in that dress. Have I told you that tonight? I already told you? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you again. You look great. Anyways, back to what you were saying. That's actually a good way to use humor, right? You're kind of having fun with it, and then you're like, you know what? Let's skip. Let's go back. That's a way to use humor without like evading. It feels a bit different. Maybe you don't see how it kind of changes things, but that's one way to really pull it off. I actually do that a lot with my sexual directness, because a lot of people ask me like, how do you be so sexually direct? I mean, it's kind of risky. Don't you, girls are going to get offended that you're just like, tell them you want to fuck them. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll do it in good fun, right? I'll be like, sorry, I'm just thinking very naughty thoughts. What are you thinking? Well, I'm thinking about bending you over and fucking you, but that's probably not appropriate to talk about right now on a first date at coffee. So anyways, let's go back to, like, I will straight up fucking say shit like that, right? And they'll be like, whoa, right? Like, I remember, this is such a side tangent. I was in Norway and I started talking to this girl, and I've probably told this story before, but anyways, I made out with her, and then we were chatting, and then she mentioned something about a cat, her cat at home, and I was like, oh, I want to see your cat, because I love cats, right? I want to see your cat. I want to fucking pet your cat. And she thought that I was just using that as an excuse to take her home. She's like, oh yeah, I know what you're trying to do. That's not going to work on me. And I was like, no, like, I do want to go see your cat because I fucking love cats. But I do want to fuck you too, and I'm not going to hide that. And she was just like, what? Like, she was flabbergasted that I would so directly say that. And then I called her out. I was like, what? Did you think that, like, I'm going to hide the fact that I want to have sex with you? And she's like, no, no one's ever been that direct with me. I'm like, well, here I am. See, that's really a cool way to go about it. And she was so fucking flabbergasted, but like also impressed. And then I could recognize that she liked that. And then I was like, you ever hooked up in a bathroom, like at a club? And she's like, no. And I was like, do you want to? And she's like, maybe. And I was like, all right, come on. And I grabbed her and took her to the bathroom, and she sucked my dick. Now, I probably would have fucked her, but as we were entering in the bathroom, one of her friends saw us and stopped us, and she had this super suspicious look on her face, and she kind of looked at me with, like, dagger eyes, and I was like, oh, time to go. And I just grabbed her and pulled her in the bathroom. And her friend was, like, going to stop us, and I was like, nope. I mean, if she wants to go, it's her choice, but I'm not going to let you get in the way. And I pulled her into the bathroom, and then we went into the stall, and then I was about to, like, hike up her dress, but then she was like, wait a second, you know, and turned around and just started making out with me, and I was like, fuck. And I was like, don't you want to fuck? And she's like, nah. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, well, at least suck my dick. She's like, okay. She got on her knees and started sucking my dick. But then she didn't even finish because it was a tense situation, I guess. You know, it was a party going on. Her friends know she's in the bathroom. Some random guy she just met like fucking 5 minutes ago. But then we got into the bathroom, and I didn't even nut. It sucked. I wish I would have just raw dogged her. And I would have raw dogged her. I didn't give a shit. She was cute. But then we went outside the bathroom, and then she immediately went to her friends, and then they like formed a fucking wall and wouldn't let me hang out with her anymore. I was like, all right, well, fuck them. Cockblocks suck. Anyways, total fucking digression. But it was a example of like how I can use humor or just my way of words when I'm expressing something so intimate, right? Like a sexual escalation of being direct, asking a girl if she wants to fuck me in the bathroom. Right? Does she want to get raw dogged by some dude she met five minutes ago? And it worked, right? Well, I got my dick sucked, but you know, it's good enough. And you know, whatever, sub 10-minute fucking extraction. we're gonna do in speed runs, okay? So, where the fuck was I? We were talking about how to use humor to break it, but also that was an example of that. Humor, this. Where was I? Anyways, we'll just kind of like backtrack a bit more. You're observing to see if she's open to taking that next step. I was there, but then I went somewhere else. Oh, fundamentals, right? Just like good fundamentals, right? In your body language, your hand gestures, your facial expressions, your voice, right? Like she called me out, and I was like, oh, don't get me wrong. I do want to pet your cat, but I'm also gonna fuck you, and I'm gonna be open about it. Like just that tonality is kind of like a, whoa, hold on, you need to know something real quick. Let me tell you something. Like, you know, you can hear what's being said in people's vocal tonalities. You still have to say the words too, but you got to sell it with the voice. But a lot of people are very, I just talk like this and I don't really have any emotion. Like imagine if I said to her, whoa, hold on there, you know, I do want to go pet your cat, but I also want to have sex with you. That would be fucking weird. You know, it's like, oh, bye. But if I say it like I said it, and like, whoa, like I want to pet your cat because I fucking love cats, but I'm going to fuck you and I'm not going to hide that. It's so like, I am just saying it with my fucking chest, right? So fundamentals, okay? Speaking confidently. What is speaking confidently? It means speaking clearly, not fucking stuttering, having vocal variations in your tonality, because you can't do that when you're nervous. When you're nervous, you kind of tend to talk in a monotone because your voice is very constrained. But when you're very relaxed, you can change your voice however you like, and you can do all sorts of things, and you can go up and down, and you can go really fast, and you can go really slow, right? You don't feel the fact that you have the variance and the variation in your voice is a prima facie fucking fancy ass word. Prima facie means on the surface of something, right? So like it has a prima facie, you know, reading Rainbow with Hector, learn a new word every day. Or technically it's a phrase. On the surface, it seems confident just in and of itself, but then also the thing you're saying is really confident, right? And then your body language is really confident, and my face is really confident. I was like, well, hold on here, right? So just that fluid ability to express yourself is in and of itself high value, right? But you can have different ways of doing it, right? You can do it my way, which is kind of like very flamboyant, or you could have done it in like a stone cold stunner kind of way. Like I could have said, well, I do want to pet your cat, but I also want to fuck you, and I'm not going to hide that. So we can just get that out of the way, right? That would have been like a, you know, a little bit more, like I said, a stone cold stunner. Or you could do the, whoa, hold on. I want to fucking pet your cat because I love cats, right? Is it a calico cat? Is it a black cat? Is it a white cat? I don't know. But I also want to fuck you. So let's not hide that, right? Totally different personality, right? Night and day personality differences, but they're both cool. They're both charismatic. They're both expressive, right? So, right. So, first of all, if she's open to escalations of interest, right, even from the very start, right, you come in here and she's open to this, so she meets you here. Can you observe that she's open for it? So that takes observational skills. That's one way to be high interest and have a girl return high interest. Second way is fundamentals, right? How the fundamentals of your personality, the basics, are going to take you all the way to mastery, okay? But then thirdly, in that example that I explained to you, where I was like, oh, you did that, you know, that thing for that someone on the job, just that fictitious conversation that I came up with out of nowhere. The fact that I explained myself by saying like, oh, wow, you know, most people just kind of like go through the day, you know, at work and just try to do what they need to do to get their fucking paycheck and then clock out. But you actually went out of your way to help someone in a situation where you didn't need to. The fact that I explain it like that sells it sells my opinion. It sells my statement. It sells what I'm saying as real because I can justify it. I can explain it in detail, right? And if, you know, it's kind of like that thing of like, if you can't explain it, you know, to a fifth grader, you don't really understand it, like that, right? So when you are talking about anything, it doesn't just have to be expressing interest to someone, right? But in this case, it is. If you can explain it very clearly and simply, well, she's going to believe you. And when she believes that you believe what you're saying, it goes back to that fundamental foundational principle of the fact that you are showing interest is an implicit communication that you believe you can get her. Because if you didn't even think you can get her, you wouldn't have gone after her in the first place. But this is further into this seduction. This is like, you know, we're actually talking to each other and getting to know each other. And now I'm taking it to the next level, right? Or like, let's say, you know, you go to like, you know, touch her on the leg, right? Are you going to do it in like a kind of half-assed kind of way, right? Or like you're making out with a girl and like you're scared to like move to grab her ass, even though she's like straddling you on the couch, right? Let's say you're new to hooking up with girls and you're like, oh my God, am I allowed to grab her ass? It's like, dude, she's straddling you on the couch and making out with her, right? Confidently just reach over and start grabbing a handful of ass, right? But the fact that you did it confidently actually is gonna make it go better. Or it's like when you're fucking a girl in bed and you kind of want to be more dominant, right? And you want to do some, like, I don't know, some shit where you're like, get on your knees, right? Well, if you say it like, do you want to get on your knees? You know, it's like, okay, that's not fucking sexy, right? Because in that moment, she wants a dominant guy. But if you say, Get on your knees. Come on, be a good girl for daddy. Now, it sounds cringy on a fucking YouTube video, but a lot of things that are intimate between two people from a third person point of view are cringy. But to the two people doing it, it's hot and it's sexy, right? But as I've talked about a lot, you know, you're going to have to be cringy before you're charismatic. I actually have an entire video called Cringe Comes Before Charisma, right? So, you know, you might laugh at yourself or people might laugh at you when you try to be charismatic. I know I've gone through it my entire YouTube career. You just have to accept that's part of the process, right? But the fact that you went for it confidently is in and of itself going to sell it because he believes he can get it. Now, this isn't a license or an advocacy to like go out and just start like touching random women or anything like that, right? This is just just a disclaimer for the like, you know, McDonald's fucking coffee. Don't, you know, this is hot. Like, don't pour it on yourself, you know, for the fucking idiot out there who might actually hurt themselves. So for the 1% idiot watching this who's like, oh, this guy said I just be really confident and just go up and grab girl's ass. That's not what I said. Listen to the full context and you know, use fucking common sense, right? But what I am talking about is like, I don't know, you're on a date with a girl and, you know, you want to reach over and like touch her hand really gently. Or let's say a girl, you know, you're walking through into the coffee shop and, you know, you lightly touch her on the lower part of her back as she walks through it, just kind of like you're guiding her through it, right? It's a very innocent way of touching, but it still creates that little bit of intimacy that will communicate higher levels of interest. Like I remember I was on a date one time and I can tell it was going really well with this girl, and she went to the bathroom and then she came back, and as she came back, she kind of you know, slid her hand across my shoulders, like kind of very intimately. Like it started on my right shoulder and it went all the way across my back, and she kind of just like, she went past me and went like this and then sat down. And it's like, okay, that's really a clear message, right? It's a very like, you know, I just want to snuggle up against you, right? It's very intimate, it's very sexual. And when she did that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna fuck this girl so hard. And then, you know, just a couple minutes later, I invited her home and did fuck her for a couple rounds. It was very fun. She took a risk by, you know, trying to break that touch barrier, which we hadn't really broken yet, but she did it because she was feeling interested and I was doing the seduction really, really well, right? But most of the time, you're the one who is going to have to, you know, take a little step, then take a little step, then take a little step, then take a little step. But once you get more experienced, you'll start to see situations where you can maybe take a little bit more bold of a step, either physically or expressing yourself verbally, right? And you're either just going to recognize she's open for it and just go for it. But even while you're going for it, you have a higher likelihood of being, you know, high interest being reciprocated if you also do it in a cool way. Because if you do it in a cool way, even if she's not necessarily super open to it, she might become open to it just because you did it really confidently, right? But of course, exercise caution when you're, you know, doing more intimate things. But like going for the kiss, that is an attempt at getting more interest reciprocated, right? Because we're not just trying to get little love notes of like, I like you, no, I like you. No, we're trying to get fucking pussy. I was going to say fucking pussy, but then I said pucking. God damn it. We're trying to get laid, okay? We're trying to get our dick sucked and lick some pussy and finger some pussy, finger some macaroni and cheese and, you know, put our dicks in every hole that we can. So let's understand that when we show high interest, we're also just like, in a lot of cases, escalating, like going for the kiss, grabbing ass, you know, pulling her home, trying to, you know, eat some cat. There's a lot of things we're attempting here, right? So let's not get too complicated in understanding that we're just moving the seduction forward. But whether it's at the beginning of the seduction, when I just come in hot, well, now the seduction's already here. And if I do it in a charismatic way, well, then holy shit, like she's going to be more open to it because it's attractive. So it's attractive in and of itself that I'm going for it, because going for it means you believe it, and she might just believe you believe it, which will make her believe it. Does that make sense? Right? And then you do it in a cool way, which makes it even more believable. And then third, you observe that there's a bit more of an opening than she's telling you. She's kind of playing it too cool for school, right? But that takes some observational skills. These ones are the more important ones. Just going for it is high value, but doing it in a cool way, and do it in a cool way means you do it with humor, you do it with charisma, which is a combination of just fundamentals, right? And even humor itself is fundamentals, right? What makes a good comedian? Well, he knows how to change his vocal tonality when the punchline comes, or he knows how to use his facial expressions, either really expressive or like deadpan. So all of these skills of whether it's humor, charisma, sexiness, right? I know how to have a sexy voice and talk to you in my bedroom voice, and I'm going to make your panties drop to the ground, and you're going to have such a wet pussy, baby. You know, that was obviously me fucking joking. All of these, let's just call it the umbrella of charisma, whether it's like sexiness, funny, you know, charming, let's just call it charisma. That's mostly your fundamentals. But there is some verbiage involved with it, like in the case where I was explaining to a girl why I admire her, okay? So these are the ways that you can show high interest, but be cool while you're doing it. And if you can take anything away from this video, it's go back to the fundamentals, okay? Watch how I talk in my videos. I know I'm charismatic. I fucking learned how to do it, okay? And the results are in my life, right? The proof is in the pussy. Okay, but if you don't like my style, or you don't think that, you know, you're similar to me, go watch someone who is similar to how you want to be like, whether it's a comedian or actor or a musician, or, you know, a sports, you know, or a sports star, an athlete, whatever it is, or someone you know in real life. Observe them, try to mimic them, take from them what you want to integrate into your own personality, and then over time you'll create your own kind of unique thing. Right? That's what I did all throughout my life, is I watched people, I observed, and I mimicked. And then I kept what I like and got rid of what I didn't. And then eventually I kind of learned my own little style. And no one really does it like I do. I don't really know anyone who expresses themselves like me, or has the diversity of expressiveness that I have, or my directness. I've never met anyone who's as direct as me. Not a single person. I've met a lot of fucking people. So yeah, that's how you express yourself in a high value way. Now, I do have a course that teaches you how to do it, at least at the outset, right? How to really nail that high value expression of interest from the very first compliment that you give a girl when you walk up and you tell her, hey, I think you're really cute, or you're pretty, or you're beautiful, or whatever. And then I also teach you how to turn that into a really good conversation. Just 5 minutes. It's really simple. You follow just a couple bullet points, and then I gave you some examples of how to do it. And then I teach you other things of like where to meet girls, what time to go out, right? How to actually do the approach from like this angle or this angle. And it does have a difference. I know it sounds nerdy, but I did break it down to that level. And then how to actually close and ask her out, right? In a cool way. And there's different ways that you can do it that have more of an effect. They're riskier because you have to really sell it to be that confident to say it like that. But you get better results if you can pull it off, right? And then I even teach things like how to, you know, make out with a girl that you just met, or turn it into an insta-date, or even pull a girl home for the first date, or before the first date, like you just met her out and about. I think it's the best way that you can meet girls, and it's one of the best ways that you can learn this skill of taking a girl from a total stranger to, you know, potentially, you know, a girl who's you're sleeping with this weekend, or maybe she's even your future fucking girlfriend or wife. You never know. Every girl who's walking past you that you think is attractive could be your future girlfriend or wife. You don't know until you actually go and approach her. And I know this because I never know 100% how it's going to go with a girl until I actually do it. But once I did it, at some point, that girl became a lover, a girlfriend, or a wife, right? So check that out. Meet Girls Everywhere in the description below if you were interested. But let's say you don't want to buy the course, right? Just take what I fucking taught you here and then start to try and implement it dynamically into when you're out approaching girls during the day. Because what I'm teaching there is just a streamlined process of this idea, right? But I put it very simply so you can understand it and don't have to go through so much trial and error. But the fundamental principle of it all is exactly what I explained in this video, right? Fundamentals, observational skills, and just the fact that you went for it is very attractive, okay? But I think you would benefit a lot from getting the course. It puts things into a very simple, streamlined process and just a couple hours of content. And then, obviously you have to implement it and practice it. But you'll eventually see results if you listen to me and if you put in the work. So if you're interested in that, Meet Girls Everywhere, description below. You should also check out my texting book. Same thing. I teach you the basic fundamental principles of texting. It's a bit different than talking in real life because texting is a two-dimensional platform and it has its own kind of rules. So we translate real life, conversational charisma skills into the world of texting. And then once you know texting, that's going to save you a lot of fucking trouble because most guys suck at texting. Even guys who are like good in person with girls tend to suck at texting. So if you're interested in that, also check link in the description. And then as always, if you're interested in that personal touch and working with me one-on-one, and I'm fixing everything about you because I'm talking to you and intimately getting to know you and being able to teach you in a way that is impossible over a YouTube video, that has to be to some degree generalized, to a wider audience. But if I'm working one-on-one with you, then you have 100% of my attention and you're going to improve a lot faster, dramatically faster. Right? So if you're interested in that, we can have a consultation call. Check the link in the description. We'll talk for maybe 15 minutes to half an hour so you get to know the whole program and answer all your questions and then see if it's right for you. So anyways, I've talked long enough. We're at 41 minutes. I'm going to go have some milk and cookies and go to bed. All right. Love you guys. Go fuck yourself. Hector Castillo, girlschase.com. Buy all my shit. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Go fuck yourself. I love you. Bye.